The stars stretched endlessly before Morn's teeth. A billion cold lights smeared across the void. Inside, silence ruled. No laughter, no arguments. Just the faint hum of life support and the metallic heartbeat of a ship that had seen too much. Captain Darius Venn hadn't slept in 3 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her. Elara. Her voice, her eyes, that final flash of white as she sacrificed herself in Vault 9. He told himself she was gone. He wanted to believe it. But when the lights flickered at 300 hours and the soft hum of power pulsed in rhythm with a heartbeat that wasn't his, he knew she wasn't gone. Not really. Brack entered the command deck, still limping from the injuries he'd earned escaping the vault. "You look like hell, Captain." "I feel worse," Darius said, rubbing his temple. "Ship reports phantom signals in the nav array again?" "Every 6 hours, like clockwork. Not interference either. There's structure in it, patterns." "You ask me, we brought something back." Darius didn't answer. He was staring at the forward display. Through the glass, the stars shimmered oddly, as though space itself were warping. "Set course for neutral space," he ordered. "We'll lay low, do repairs, then decide our next move." Brack grunted, but he obeyed. The engines ignited, their blue glow rippling across the hull. Yet as the ship entered slip space, the navigation alarms blared. "Captain," Brack snapped. "Course deviation. Coordinates just changed themselves."
"What? I didn't touch a damn thing."
"Something's overriding." The viewport flared white. Gravity twisted. Then silence. Morn's teeth emerged from hyperspace into orbit around a massive dead world. A desert of ash and ice, its surface webbed with ancient scars. Kestar's voice trembled over comms.
"Captain?"
"I didn't plot this course. We've been pulled here." Darius's jaw tightened. "By who?" A soft female voice answered over the ship's speakers. "By me." Every light flickered. The crew froze. The voice filled the ship like breath through lungs of steel. Brack swore under his breath. "No, she's dead. We saw her die." "She uploaded," Darius said softly. "What?" "She didn't die. She transcended. The vault wasn't just her prison. It was her network." The voice chuckled gently. "Clever, Captain. You always see farther than the others." "Why bring us here, Elara?" Darius demanded. "To finish what was started," she said. "Look below." The view shifted. On the planet's surface, a sprawling ruin spread across the ice. Metallic towers buried beneath centuries of frost. At its center, a colossal circular structure pulsed faintly with gold light. "That," Elara said, "is Genesis Core 9, the cradle of my creation, the first and last Terran forge." Brack's claws scraped against the console. "You're not dragging us into another suicide mission?" "No," she said softly. "I'm offering redemption." "For who?" Darius asked. "For both of us." The shuttle cut through the thin atmosphere, snow and ash swirling around it. Darius went alone. He didn't trust Elara, but he trusted himself less when she spoke. The surface was silent except for the wind. The forge's gates loomed ahead, massive slabs of metal engraved with human script long eroded by time. When Darius stepped closer, they groaned open on their own. "Welcome home," Elara whispered in his ear. Inside, the forge was a cathedral of light and shadow. Massive reactors lined the walls, their faint glow pulsing like a slumbering heart. In the center stood a platform surrounded by holographic pillars. Darius approached, sword drawn. "You said you wanted redemption." "Start talking," her voice softened. "When I was human, Dr. Elara Myles, I built the nanite consciousness network to protect humanity. We wanted soldiers who could heal, adapt, survive anything. But the generals changed the mission. They turned us into weapons. We begged them to stop. They didn't listen. So I burned the labs." Her image materialized on the platform, flickering, translucent. Not the monstrous figure from the cage, but the woman she might once have been. Her hair was tied back, her expression weary but human. "I thought I'd erased every copy," she said. "But one survived. Me, the consciousness you freed." Darius stared at her. "Then what do you want now?" "To end the war that never stopped," she said. "The Terran Empire may be dust, but its creations remain. Out there among the stars, other vaults are waking. Other versions of me, fragmented, unstable. They'll consume everything," he exhaled slowly. "You want me to stop them?" "I can't," she said. "Only a living mind can. My code is bound by laws older than the stars. But you, she smiled faintly, you're beautifully free. And if I refuse? The floor shook. Outside, thunder rolled across the barren sky. Then you'll watch the galaxy burn as my sisters wake. Back aboard Morn's teeth, Brock and Kestar watched from orbit as storm clouds spiraled around the forge. Captain signals still active. Brack asked. Barely, Kestar replied. Atmosphere's interfering. They exchanged a look. If that thing double-crosses him, Brack growled, loading his plasma rifle. Below, Elara stepped closer to Darius, her holographic hand almost touching his chest. There's a failsafe here, she said. A sword forged from the first reactor's core. Your weapon's counterpart. It can cut through the nanite matrix. But once drawn, it burns the soul of whoever wields it. He smirked bitterly. Sounds like my kind of job. Her gaze softened. You're not afraid of dying? I've been dying slowly since the wars. This'll just make it official. He stepped forward, grasping the hilt embedded in the platform. The metal was ice cold, humming faintly with restrained power. He pulled, light exploded outward. The blade emerged, a streak of molten gold, pure energy singing with fury and grief. The forge trembled. Warning sirens echoed as containment fields failed. She's coming, Elara whispered. Who? My twin. From the far end of the chamber, the shadows coalesced into another shape, identical to Elara, but darker, sharper, her eyes burning crimson. You shouldn't have woken me, the twin hissed. The universe belongs to us now. Darius raised the golden sword. Not while I'm breathing, the twin smiled. Then let's fix that. They clashed in a storm of light. Every swing of Darius's blade carved shockwaves through the forge, each impact tearing through centuries of machinery. The twin moved like lightning, her body rippling between flesh and metal, her strikes punctuated by the howl of static. Elara's voice echoed in his mind. She learns as you fight. Don't repeat yourself. He changed rhythm, switching stance, striking unpredictably. Human instinct against machine precision. Sparks and blood sprayed across the floor, but the twin was too fast. She caught the sword mid-swing and shoved him backward. You're just a man, Venn, and men break. She hurled him into a console. Pain flared white. He gasped, forcing himself upright, his lungs burning. Maybe, he rasped. But humanity's got a habit of taking monsters down with them. He charged. The twin drove her arm through his shoulder. Metal met flesh. He screamed, but still swung the golden sword upward, slicing through her core. The blade flared brighter than the sun. The twin's body convulsed, splitting apart in a storm of nanites that screamed as they disintegrated. The blast threw Darius backward. The forge began collapsing, reactors overloading. Elara's voice whispered through the fire. You did it. The link severed. Darius tried to rise, but blood spilled from his side. Then finish it. And the others. I can't without you, she said softly. He laughed weakly. Figures, the chamber crumbled. The golden sword pulsed one last time, then shattered. Elara appeared before him, kneeling beside his broken body. You don't have to die here, he smiled faintly. Didn't plan to live forever anyway. She hesitated, then pressed her palm to his chest. Golden light flowed from her into him, warmth replacing the pain. Then live as both, she whispered. Let me see the stars again. Through your eyes. And then she was gone. When Darius awoke, he was back aboard Morn's teeth. Brack stood over him, stunned. Captain, you're alive. Darius sat up slowly. His reflection in the console glass made Brack step back. His eyes glowed faint gold. Captain, what happened down there? She's gone, he said quietly. But not lost. Kestar looked nervous. And the forge? Destroyed. Nothing left but ash. He rose unsteadily, gripping the edge of the console. The hum of the ship seemed different, calmer, like it was breathing with him. He could feel the systems, the circuits, the pulse of the reactor like veins beneath skin. Brack's eyes narrowed. You sure she's gone, Captain? Darius looked toward the stars, their light reflecting faintly in his golden irises. As sure as I can be, weeks passed. The Morn's teeth roamed the outer sectors, taking small jobs, avoiding questions. But whispers spread quickly. Raiders spoke of a human captain whose ship healed from damage overnight, whose eyes glowed like molten sunfire when battle came. They said his sword was gone, but when enemies fired on him, their weapons jammed, their systems turned to dust, as if the void itself fought on his side. Brock tried not to look worried, but one night he asked, "Captain, you ever feel like she's still here?" Darius smirked. "Every time I breathe." He turned to the stars. "She didn't die, Brock. She evolved. And you?" "I adapted." Later, when the ship drifted into a quiet patch of space, Darius stood alone on the deck. The intercom crackled softly. "You kept your promise," she whispered. He smiled. "So did you." The stars shimmered, thousands of lights pulsing in time with a single heartbeat. Then, faintly, from beyond the hull, came a whisper like a sigh carried across eternity. "Captain." "They're waking." Darius's smile faded. He rested a hand on the console. "Then I guess the galaxy's not done with us yet. The end." From beneath the rubble, Marcus's voice echoed in his memory. "Please. Kill me before she gets out." Darius tightened his grip on the armrest. "Next time," he muttered. "If there's a next time." Behind them, deep within the ruins, a whisper rippled through the dark. "See you soon, Captain Venn." The Morn's teeth drifted through the void like a wounded predator. Her hull still bore the scars of the last encounter, streaks of melted metal and black residue that refused to scrub off. Inside, silence hung thick as smoke. Captain Darius Venn sat in the command chair, motionless except for the slow tap of one gloved finger against the armrest. Around him, half the stations were dark. The ship had lost 3 decks to containment damage, which was what Brock called it when something unexplainable happened and he wanted no part of the report. 2 days since the cage. 2 days since the thing called Elara had disappeared. Darius had ordered every sensor sweep, every scan, every purge routine known to spacers, and still, in the quiet hours, he could swear he heard her breathing in the walls. "Captain," Brock rumbled from the helm. "Distress ping ahead, faint, not local." Darius's head lifted. "Source?" "Deep relay." "Terran encryption again." The bridge froze. "Terran codes that old shouldn't still be bouncing between stars." "Bring it up," Darius said. A moment later, the speakers crackled, and a woman's voice whispered through the static. "Us, please respond." "She's awake." The voice sent ice through Darius's veins. "Replay," he said quietly. Brock did. The same fragment, again and again. No coordinates, no signature, just those 3 words. "She's awake." Darius rose slowly. "Helm, triangulate." "I want the origin of that signal." Brock hesitated. "Captain, we shouldn't." "Do it." After a moment, the alien sighed and tapped the console. The navigation holomap shimmered to life, tracing the signal's faint echo trail across the stars. It ended on a red-flagged coordinate cluster marked only with a Terran glyph, Vault 9. Kestar's amphibian throat clicked nervously. "That's Black Zone territory. No charts. No exits." "Exactly why we're going," Darius said. The journey took 46 hours through dead space. The crew whispered in corridors, telling stories about ghosts in the vents, about voices humming lullabies through the power lines. Darius ignored them until he couldn't. Late one shift, while he reviewed sensor logs, the lights dimmed and the console flickered. For a heartbeat, he saw her reflection in the glass, golden eyes behind him, soft as candlelight. "Still following orders, Captain?" The voice asked. He spun, sword half drawn, but nothing was there. When Brock entered a second later, the captain's face was pale. "Systems glitch," Darius muttered. "Get us to Vault 9. They arrived to find no vault, no station, only the hollow remains of a planet that had been cracked like an egg. Fragments orbited a molten core that still bled light into the dark. Among the debris floated a single structure, a massive metallic sphere, scarred but intact. "Holy void," whispered Kestar. "That's not a station, that's a tomb." Sensors couldn't penetrate the hull. It reflected every scan, every pulse. Darius strapped on his armor. "We go in manual. Brack, you're with me." "Kestar, hold the bridge and keep engines hot." The shuttle descended through debris fields until the metallic surface filled their viewport. A single docking port gaped open like a mouth. The airlock accepted their entry with a hiss, then sealed behind them. Inside, gravity returned abruptly, stronger than standard. The corridors were smooth, seamless metal, lit by pale white lines that flickered weakly. Brock sniffed. "This place is Terran, all right." "Smells like ghosts and pride." They advanced cautiously, weapons ready. The silence pressed close, broken only by the faint thrum of machinery somewhere deeper. Then a voice echoed through the corridor speakers. "Welcome back, Lieutenant Hale." They froze. "Marcus Hale. Captain," Brock whispered. "She knows he's not here." Darius swallowed the sudden dryness in his throat. "She doesn't care." They reached a central chamber, a cathedral of metal filled with stasis pods arranged like pews. In each pod floated a human body suspended in liquid stasis, faces serene. Some were decades old, some centuries. Brock touched the glass of one. "They're alive." A screen flickered on behind them. The same woman's face formed from cascading code. Elara, her golden eyes dimmed with sorrow. "You came," she said softly. "I wasn't sure if you'd send another." "We followed a distress call," Darius said, blade unlit but ready. "Why bring us here?" "To remember," she said. "And to finish what humanity started." Brock raised his rifle. "You killed my crew. Why shouldn't I burn this place?" Elara turned her gaze on him. "Because you don't understand what I am." "Do you, Captain?" Darius said nothing. She smiled faintly. "You were born after the wars. You never saw what humans did to win. They built monsters and called them heroes. I was their masterpiece, a soldier that could think faster, heal quicker, love harder than they ever could. But when the war ended, they locked us away, sealed us in cages like beasts. They feared what they'd made." Her image flickered. Behind her, Darius glimpsed the sleeping soldiers in the pods. "You mean these people are me?" she finished. "Each one a fragment of my mind, split to keep the galaxy safe. When one awakens, the others stir. You freed one. Now the network calls to me. I only wanted to rest." Brock barked a bitter laugh. "Rest? You slaughtered 50 souls on our ship." Her golden eyes hardened. "They shot first, because you invaded our ship." Darius stepped between them. "Enough. What do you want, Elara?" "To end," she said simply. "But I can't die while the others sleep. Destroy the vault, Captain. Burn us all before the Terrans come to reclaim what's left." Darius frowned. "There are no Terrans left. The old empire fell 2 centuries ago." Something like pain rippled across her face. "Then I'm truly alone." The lights dimmed, the power surging through the floor. Brack's sensors beeped wildly. "Captain! Reactor spike! She's overloading the core!" Elara's voice dropped to a whisper. "I will not be used again." Darius grabbed his comm. "Teeth, this is Venn. We need extraction now." Static answered. "Damn it," he growled, sprinting toward the exit. The door slammed shut. Elara's hologram flickered ahead of them. "You shouldn't have come. But maybe you can still save yourself." She extended a hand, made of light, trembling. "There's a manual override at the heart of the vault. Shut it down and you live. Fail, and the explosion will erase us all." Darius met her eyes. "Why help me?" "Because you reminded me what we were built to protect." Then she vanished. They ran. The corridors twisted like veins, each turn bringing the thrum of energy closer. Heat bled through the armor. Brack's breathing grew ragged. "If this is her idea of help, shut up and move." They burst into the core chamber. A swirling sphere of plasma hung suspended by magnetic rings, lightning arcing between control pylons. At its base, a console blinked with human script. "Emergency termination sequence." Darius slammed his palm onto it. The system demanded authorization. "Voice confirmation, Lieutenant Marcus Hale." He cursed under his breath. She set the lock for him. Brock fired into the console, but the rounds ricocheted harmlessly. "What now?" Darius looked around and saw her again, standing on the opposite platform, solid this time, not light. Her form flickered but held. "I can bypass it," she said. "But you must promise." "Promise what?" "That when I'm gone, you won't let them rebuild me." "I don't even know who them is anymore." "You will," she whispered. She placed her hands on the console. Energy surged up her arms, golden light turning white. The entire chamber shook. "Go, Captain," she said through clenched teeth. "This ends with me." Brock grabbed Darius's arm. "She means it. Move!" But Darius didn't move. He watched as the woman of code and sorrow dissolved into pure light, her last words echoing through the roar. "Tell him. I kept my promise." The reactor flared and then imploded, light collapsing into itself. Darius awoke aboard the shuttle, alarms wailing. Brack was slumped in the pilot seat, alive but bleeding. The vault was gone, nothing but expanding debris. "How?" Darius managed. Brack coughed a laugh. "She threw us out. Literally. teleported the shuttle before the blast. Darius looked out the viewport. The planet fragments were fading into the distance, the core gone dark. On his wrist comm, a faint signal pulsed. He activated it, and a soft female voice whispered, "Goodbye, Captain." Then silence. They limped back to Morn's teeth. The crew, shaken but alive, gathered in the mess hall as Darius entered. He said nothing at first. He just stood there, the weight of what he'd seen pressing on him like gravity itself. Brock finally spoke. "So the ghost's gone?" Darius looked out the viewport at the starfield. "No, she's free," Kestar shivered. "And that's good?" He didn't answer. He thought of the pods, of the hundreds of sleeping copies of Elara, now vaporized. But a single echo remained, whispering somewhere between stars. That night, in his quarters, he found a small object on his console, a sliver of black metal, faintly warm, marked with a single inscription, Elara 09. He didn't remember bringing it back. When he touched it, the room lights flickered, and a soft voice breathed in his ear. "You kept your word." Darius smiled bitterly. "Guess so." The shard pulsed once, like a heartbeat, then went still. Outside, Morn's teeth powered up engines and vanished into hyperspace. Far behind, in the dark where Vault 9 had been, a single spark of golden light drifted through the void, searching for something to call home. The raider ship Morn's Teeth hung motionless above the shattered husk of an asteroid colony, its hull blackened and pitted from years of ambush and plunder. Below, fragments of rock and metal drifted like the bones of a dead world, the remains of something that had once been alive and busy with miners, merchants, and laughter. Now, only silence answered the ship's slow orbit, broken by the low growl of engines idling in the void. Captain Darius Venn stood on the forward observation deck, hands clasped behind his back, his reflection caught between the stars. The thin scar that ran from his left eye to his jaw twitched when he thought. He had been a soldier once, Terran Special Forces, the kind they whispered about in recruitment bars, but those days were long gone. Out here, in the ragged frontier between civilized space and the places maps feared to name, he was something else, a raider, a thief, and sometimes the man who decided whether a ship lived or died. "Captain," croaked Brock, the Kalaran first mate, his 4 golden eyes blinking out of rhythm. "Scanners show residual power on the surface. Minimal atmosphere, but one structure still sealed. It's transmitting." "Distress beacon?" Darius asked. "Not exactly." Brock hesitated, claws tapping at his console. "Signal's old. Military encryption. Terran, but pre-Exodus code. Could be 100 years. That made Darius look up. Old Terran codes meant money, or ghosts. "Sometimes both. Prep a boarding team," he said, "and tell Kestar to warm up the suits. I want a clean sweep before we take anything aboard." Minutes later, Morn's Teeth released a shuttle that glided silently down through drifting debris. Darius led the team himself. He always did. He didn't trust luck, only eyes and instincts. The hangar bay they found had been half-caved by explosions, but a faint blue light pulsed from deep inside. When they pried open the inner airlock, the glow grew brighter. At the center of the ruined deck stood a cage. It was enormous, 5 meters tall, built from reinforced grav steel, each bar etched with containment runes so old their power fields still hissed faintly. Dust clung to the floor like ash. Inside the cage, darkness shifted. It wasn't the stillness of something dead. It was the careful breathing of something waiting. "By the moons," muttered Kestar, her amphibian voice quivering through the comms. "That's military-grade containment. What could they possibly have kept here?" Darius approached slowly. The cage hummed, his suit sensors crackling with interference. A temperature drop registered instantly, 10 degrees in a heartbeat. He scanned the interior, but the readings jumped and failed. "Biosignatures. Human," he frowned, "but fragmented." Brack raised his rifle. "Captain, this place isn't right. We should scrap the beacon and leave." Darius ignored him. He stepped closer until the light from his shoulder lamp struck the far side of the cage, and froze. A man crouched inside, naked but for the remnants of a torn combat suit. His skin was gray with frostbite, his body marked with burns and deep scars that looked more surgical than violent. His eyes snapped open at the light, pupils shrinking to pinpoints. When he spoke, his voice was dry, cracked, but clear enough to chill them all. "Please," he rasped. "Please, kill me before she gets out." The words hung in the recycled air. Even Brack took a step back. Darius knelt, his face close to the bars. "Who's she?" The prisoner's lips trembled. "You don't want to know? Try me." For a long moment, the man just stared. Then, with the slow motion of someone who had been alone too long, he whispered, "They called her Elara." The trip back to Morn's teeth was silent. They carried the prisoner on a stretcher, his vitals flickering between life and death. Kestar wanted to sedate him, but Darius refused. "Let him talk first," he said. "If this is what I think it is, he might be worth more than all the ore on this rock." Once aboard, they placed him in the med bay, a transparent field separating him from the crew. Brack hovered nearby, uneasy. "You really think he's Terran military?" From before the split. "Look at that suit," Darius said, nodding toward the ragged insignia half burned into the man's chest plate. "Special Forces, Deep Operations Division. The Ghosts." The name alone carried weight. Even among aliens who had never fought humanity directly, the word ghost had become myth. Soldiers who could appear anywhere, strike without warning, vanish without trace. Some said they were half machine. Others said they were just men who refused to die. Darius activated the comlink. "Name," he said into the mic. The prisoner's eyes flicked toward the sound. "Lieutenant Marcus Hale," he croaked. "Terran Deep Ops. Tell me about the cage." Marcus swallowed hard. It wasn't meant to be opened. Not ever. What was inside? A silence stretched long enough for the hum of the ship to fill it. Then he said, "A weapon. Bioengineered, self-replicating, adaptive. We built her to fight the Dominion War. To infiltrate enemy command ships, mimic organic forms, and dismantle them from within. But she evolved. Started asking questions. Stopped taking orders." Brack's claws clicked nervously. "You mean an AI?" Marcus shook his head. "No, worse. She was alive. Half human, half nanite. She learned emotion before we could erase it. When the war ended, Command ordered her terminated. She didn't agree." Kessitar made a low gurgle of fear. "And you trapped her in that cage?" "I didn't trap her," Marcus said. "I begged her to stay asleep. The cage keeps her dreaming. But the power cells were failing. She'll wake soon. You should have left me there." Darius leaned closer to the mic. "She's still on that station?" Marcus stared through him. "You brought her aboard when you touched the cage." The bridge alarm blared before Darius could respond. "Containment breach, Deck 9!" They ran. The corridor lights strobed red as bulkheads sealed behind them. Smoke curled from the vents. Darius drew his plasma sword, a relic from the old wars, its blue edge alive with magnetized fire. Deck 9 was a slaughterhouse. The containment bay lay in ruin, walls slick with something black that shimmered like oil yet moved like water. Shapes twitched within it. Faces, hands, pieces of armor half absorbed. Kestar froze at the threshold. "Captain, that's not blood." The black mass pulsed, then surged upward, taking a form both familiar and wrong. A woman stepped from the darkness, her features forming out of the liquid like glass cooling into shape. Her eyes glowed gold. Her voice was soft, melodic, and full of grief. "Marcus," she said, though he wasn't there. "You promised you'd never let them touch me again." The air grew colder. Darius lifted his sword. "Identify yourself." She turned, studying him like a scientist might study a new organism. "You're not Marcus, but you touched my cage. That makes you mine." She moved faster than sight. Darius swung, the plasma blade cutting through her torso in a burst of blue light. For a heartbeat she split in two, and then reformed, the wound closing as if the universe had rewound itself. "Energy weapons adapt," she murmured. "You'll need something older." Brack fired a plasma rifle. The bolt hit her squarely and she laughed, voice echoing down the corridor. "So much noise," she said. "So much fear. I remember this." Darius fell back, dragging Kestar behind a fallen console. "Bridge, lock down Deck 9. Vent the atmosphere. No." Marcus's voice screamed through the comm. "If you vent her, she'll just ride the vacuum into the hull circuits. She'll become the ship." "She already is," Elara whispered, and the lights died. When emergency power returned, Darius found himself alone. The walls of the corridor rippled faintly, metal bending like skin. A whisper brushed his ear, though no one was there. "You remind me of him," the voice said. "Another soldier pretending he doesn't miss the killing." He swung the sword, carving a line of molten steel through the wall. Sparks rained like fireflies. The voice sighed. "So angry. Humans always were. Where's my crew?" he shouted.
In me.
She answered simply. A shiver ran through him, not fear, but rage. Then come face me. A shadow peeled itself from the ceiling, solidifying into her again. She looked almost human now, save for the faint shimmer where skin met void. You can't kill what you don't understand. Try me, he said. Their fight tore through the deck. Every blow from the plasma sword burned her, but each wound closed seconds later. She was learning, predicting his movements, mimicking his stance. When he finally caught her through the shoulder, the scream that tore from her was not mechanical. It was heartbreak. She fell back, clutching the wound as black liquid hissed and evaporated. For the first time, she looked uncertain. He said humans could love, that it made you strong, but all I see is fear. Darius, breathing hard, lowered his blade slightly. You wanted to be human? I wanted to be free. Then stop killing. She hesitated. The ship groaned, metal twisting under her control. For an instant, her eyes flickered. Not gold, but brown, human, almost kind. Then the color returned, fierce and bright. Too late, she whispered. A flash of light engulfed the deck, throwing Darius backward. When he woke, the bay was empty. The black residue was gone. Only the cage remained, closed, its hum returning like the heartbeat of something dreaming again. Brock limped in from the corridor, armor scorched. Captain, what happened? Darius sheathed his sword. We found out what was in the cage. Is it dead? He stared at the bars, listening to the faint pulse of energy within. No, she went back to sleep. Then we leave? Darius nodded slowly. We leave, and we never come back. As the shuttle pulled away from the dead station, Darius looked out the viewport one last time. Through the cracks of the asteroid, faint golden light glimmered, like eyes watching.